A simple one. A
Yeah.
simple one.
So do you want to do it on a particular topic?
Oh, why don't you surprise me? Why don't you suggest something
So we
like
can
yeah.
we could do it like more general about just like anxiety, right?
Okay.
And so the way that you do it is you would start tapping on the pinky side of your hand. Doesn't matter which hand. I tend to tap with my right hand, but it doesn't matter. Um, and you would say something like, even though I'm feeling really stressed and anxious, I love, honor, and accept myself. It's the sentence where we're acknowledging what the discomfort is, and then there's the positive statement at the end. So even though I'm dealing with all of this anxiety, it's okay and I'm okay. Even though I'm stressed and anxious, I'm choosing to love myself through this. And so that's called the setup statement. And then we move around to the other points. And it's very simple. We just would go to the top of the head and say something like, I'm really anxious. And then come to the start of the eyebrows, all this anxiety, side of the eyes, I'm feeling really stressed. And then under the eyes, all this stress and anxiety. And as you're doing this, you're kind of taking some nice deep breaths. You're noticing what it feels like to just acknowledge the fact that you're stressed and anxious.
Welcome to your Wordless podcast, the space where we redefine success, self-worth, and transformation. I am Nick Nieras, the soul-centered architect of transformation, helping you unlock your highest potential and build a legacy beyond limits. Now, whether it is self-mastery, career breakthroughs, or wealth creation, this is where change begins. Now, let's dive in.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay, first things first, before we start getting into the nitty-gritty of things, I'd like to take my guests and the listeners a trip down memory lane first. So, can you share with us what was it like growing up as a Lauren Fonvielle? I hope I pronounced that correctly.
So I grew up in New York on Long Island. Yeah, I mean, I had, I guess, a pretty typical upbringing. Both my parents worked. My mom worked in the city. I think from a young age, I always thought that I would, you know, marry.
Follow the footsteps.
Yeah, like marry a accountant or a stockbroker or something and like live in the city. That is not far from what happened. But yeah, no, I had a really nice upbringing. I have a sister, and I think I always did deal with anxiety. I think anxiety has always kind of been part of my story, and it was something, you know, my mom was always very anxious, and so I think it always was very normal to me to have anxiety because it was what I was around a lot, what I was seeing. And then as I got older, it was still something that I could kind of keep a handle on, I guess. And then later on in adulthood, after I had kids and my husband's in the military, and he had gone from being active duty over to a reservist. We got some kind of, well, for me, surprise, unexpected news that he was going to have to deploy again when we were at a place where I did not think that that was going to be a thing. We had done deployments previously, but this one kind of came out of left field. And then my anxiety really just like skyrocketed and went a little out of control. I started having some panic attacks. And that was really the beginning of my journey of trying to figure out how to feel better, how to feel calmer and more comfortable in my own skin. And it led me down a bunch of different paths to a variety of different healing modalities and ultimately led me to EFT. And yeah, I'm excited to share that with you.
Okay, now I'm gonna ask the obvious follow-up question. So, what is EFT, Lauren?
Yeah. So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and it also is called tapping. So it is this process of gently tapping on certain points of the body while simultaneously acknowledging and speaking out loud about how you feel. And this is a somatic practice that really helps you to get to the root of why you feel the way that you feel and find some relief. There's lots of science that backs it up, and it's been shown to reduce the cortisol in the body, which is the stress hormone, and that helps you to feel calmer. So it's a self-help technique really to help you feel calmer and more in control.
So, when exactly did you start diving into EFT? What was the experience that you had the first time with it? And
Yeah.
I know you also mentioned you tried at least a bunch of different modalities, like me too. I tried a bit of my story. I think my pivotal moment came when I got divorced in 2019. And then that's when I started like relearning, unlearning who I was before, the beliefs that I carried with me, and relearn everything. Like, all the questions, the existential questions started popping up, like, who am I? What's my purpose here on earth? And so that also got me into the path of looking within. And there's no one size fits all, or rather one technique that fits anybody, like from the get-go. Like for me, I finally, at least now, I ventured into hypnotherapy, and that's hypnosis, and it works with the subconscious reprogramming. And so I'm curious about your journey. Like, what were the challenges that you faced before, when it comes to really facing those anxiety head on, and then what did you do to really get to the other side?
Yeah. So I was introduced to tapping in a group coaching space, and I was very skeptical of the idea of tapping on yourself to feel better.
Like, why?
Yeah, I mean,
What's this gonna do? Yeah.
yeah, like that's a little weird, but okay, let's give it a try. And it, uh, I was willing to try. I think I was willing to try anything. I think that's when a lot of people come to me when they've tried all sorts of other things and nothing has really worked and they want to, they want to feel better. So they're willing to try this weird thing called tapping. So I was introduced to it in a group coaching space. So it was a group tapping experience. And as we're doing it, I was just like, what? Something's happening. Like I am feeling different. I'm feeling a little calmer. I don't know why. I don't really understand what's happening, but something is happening. And so I was intrigued by that. And then that led me to sign up for some one on one sessions. And then in my first one on one session, I had a pretty big aha moment and was able to realize that for me, and I think for a lot of people, when you're feeling anxious and stressed out, you feel these things physically in your body. I was feeling that my TMJ, my jaw would really act up, and sometimes my jaw would be locked, and I had a lot of pain in my neck, and my
Wow.
shoulders. And when I went through this tapping, like when I came to this first session, she had said that tapping can help with physical pain. And I had been trying all sorts of things to try and mitigate that pain that I was experiencing. And when we started tapping on it, and the way that a one-on-one session works is the practitioner is asking you a lot of questions, and as the client, it's your job to really just kind of tune in and notice how you're feeling, notice where your thoughts are going, and kind of share what's coming up along the way. And I had this aha moment where I realized that a lot of the physical pain that I was experiencing was related to feelings of betrayal and sadness that I had experienced, years prior, and my body was holding on to. Once I was able to acknowledge that and say it out loud, there was a really big shift in the pain that I was experiencing. And after that, I was like, okay, this still is weird. I still don't understand what's happening, but I feel significantly better. And yeah, I was hooked after that. And I kept tapping myself and eventually went on to get certified. And now I'm a trainer, so I can train other people to become certified.
Brilliant. Okay, Lauren, I mean, my podcast talks a lot about self-worth, self-identity, and really, and I like diving deep into certain topics, especially about anxiety or trauma. And that actually has unfortunately happened to some people. And I really want to understand the hero's journey, if you could put it that way. And you mentioned about, in the past, you had some things happen to you, and then now those issues actually they surfaced because those issues weren't addressed properly, or we interpreted them in a different way because we were young, or, of a certain age. And so, what was the awakening like for you? Did you have any?
Yeah, I mean, like, I I feel like tapping was such a wonderful tool to really help me to cultivate this relationship between the mind and the body, because
Mm.
sometimes, we can be like all up in our thoughts and trying to, act like we're physically okay, or not trying to feel the discomfort in our bodies, because who wants to feel discomfort in your body? So you try and, distract yourself and pretend like it's not there. And tapping was really this gentle way of helping me to acknowledge these things that did happen in the past, that were uncomfortable, that I never had the tools to really process those things. And I was unaware of just how much that was impacting me physically, and we hold on we hold on to so much. I'm sure you've heard of the book The Body Keeps the Score, right? Like, the body keeps the score, and it's this
Every
idea.
cell remembers.
Yeah, like, and the definition of emotion is energy in motion. So it's that idea that our emotions, they want to be acknowledged, they want to be felt, and that way we can move through them. So when we have uncomfortable emotions like anger, sadness, frustration, betrayal, we don't like feeling them, so we shove them down, we distract ourselves with something else so we don't have to pay attention to that. And then over time, all that stuff like builds up to a point where it's gonna come out in some way. And for some people that comes out physically, sometimes it comes out as, you're an emotional basket case, whatever the case may be. And tapping really brought light to that for me. And it did so in a very gentle, healing way. And I'm forever grateful for that.
Are you stuck in a job that you don't love, feeling like you're meant for more? It is not in your head, it is in your soul. I am Nick Yaras, and I help high achievers like you break free from burnout, rewire self-doubt, and build a life aligned with purpose through coaching, hypnotherapy, and soul activation. Because let's face it, real wealth isn't just about money, it is about aligned and happy heart, mind, and soul. Now, remember, you are worthy and you are enough. Let's transform your life together. Visit www.thenickyaras.holisticlifestyle.com to begin.
Sure. Yeah.
A simple one. A
Yeah.
simple one.
So do you want to do it on a particular topic?
Oh, why don't you surprise me? Why don't you suggest something
So we
like,
can
yeah.
we could do it like more general about just like anxiety, right?
Okay.
And so the way that you do it is you would start tapping on the pinky side of your hand. Doesn't matter which hand. I tend to tap with my right hand, but it doesn't matter. Um, and you would say something like, even though I'm feeling really stressed and anxious, I love, honor, and accept myself. It's the sentence where we're acknowledging what the discomfort is, and then there's the positive statement at the end. So even though I'm dealing with all of this anxiety, it's okay, and I'm okay. Even though I'm stressed and anxious, I'm choosing to love myself through this. And so that's called the setup statement. And then we move around to the other points. And it's very simple. We just would go to the top of the head and say something like, I'm really anxious. And then come to the start of the eyebrows. All this anxiety. Side of the eyes. I'm feeling really stressed. And then under the eyes, all this stress and anxiety. And as you're doing this, you're kind of taking some nice deep breaths. You're noticing what it feels like to just acknowledge the fact that you're stressed and anxious. Now we're going to move under the nose. I'm feeling stressed and anxious. And then under the chin, or onto the chin crease, so right below the lip, all this anxiety and stress. And then we would move to the collarbone, or right underneath the collarbone, all this stress and anxiety. And we go under the arm. So for women, it's about the center of the bra strap on the side of the body. And for men, it's about, four fingers down from the armpit. All this stress and anxiety. And then the last point is between the pinky and the ring finger on the back of the hand. All this stress and anxiety. And you just pause there and take a nice deep breath. And so as you're going through that, maybe it's like you have a thought of, oh yeah, I'm really stressed out about this project that I'm, doing for work. So then we would change the words and we would get more specific. So with tapping, you can start off more on a global level, right? On something just large, like I'm anxious and stressed. Because people come in and they're just like, yeah, I'm really overwhelmed. I'm really anxious. I'm really stressed. I don't know why. That's just how I feel. And so then you tap and you kind of tune into your body and then you just notice the thoughts that come up. So maybe it's something that's like really present for you, like a project at work. Or maybe you have what you feel like is an unrelated thought, right? A memory pop up from childhood where you're like, that has nothing to do with why I'm stressed. I can promise you that if a memory comes up, there is a reason
It
for it.
definitely
It's
has
definitely
something
related.
to do with that.
Even if it doesn't make sense to you, it's coming up for a reason. So you explore it. And so you put some words to that and then you do another round of tapping. And so it's very much this practice meets you where you are and you tailor it specifically to you and using the words that really resonate with you and you see where it goes. And oftentimes it leads you down a path that you never would have expected.
Hi, I'm Nick Nieras, your host of the Your Wordless podcast. Now, if these real raw stories hit home, don't wait. Please follow, like, and subscribe my Spotify and YouTube. For bite-sized inspirational reels, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Don't wait. Your transformation starts today. Thank you, and bye for now. I love that. I love the fact that it is a modality that doesn't, it is so simple, but we take it for granted. And it's all available to us.
Yeah.
Tapping the
Yeah.
hand.
I mean, and when I'm describing this to people that have never done it before, I often compare it to acupuncture because people are just more familiar with acupuncture, right? Go into
Yeah.
acupuncturist having needles put in at certain points. So instead of needles, we're applying acupressure to some of those same points. And then there's the added component of speaking out loud about how you're feeling because a lot of the time, I think especially as women, we're thinking all day, right? And we're thinking we can be thinking really unhelpful thoughts that like, oh, I'm terrible at this, or I'm not good enough, or whatever. And you're saying that over and over and over in your head, and then it feels really true, right? Like that feels like truth. And then if you start to tap and say those things out loud, you begin to create a little bit of distance from it, and you're like, why am I doing this to myself? Like I'm good. Like I can do this or whatever. And, or it can continue to feel really true. But as you continue to tap, you create this space and slowly you move from that intense, negative feeling to a more positive feeling. And we just, you move that needle organically and authentically, right? So it's not like you're jumping from saying, I'm not good enough to, I'm amazing, right? But maybe, I mean, if that feels true to you, but like it could be like, I have a lot of support. I'm going to be able to do this, whatever, you slowly move that needle.
And it's making you be more aware of your thoughts and yourself. And also, I saw this thing just pop up just now in my mind. Through the process of all of this, have some grace for yourself and have some compassion because I mean, I used to be an overachiever, but in a bad way because I tied my self-worth to the achievements that I have had before. And we're always the most critical towards ourselves.
That's for
We're the
sure.
hardest on ourselves because we know the potential that we could go, but then sometimes we forgot that is actually maybe who are we trying to please? Is it the society? Are we trying to fit ourselves to a mold or perception that, okay, you need to show up this way, you need to show up this way. And I think through all those modalities, but right now, especially on tapping too, you could recenter and reorient yourself to see, oh, where did these thoughts originate from? Is it mine or is it?
Right. Because
Yeah.
a lot of those unhelpful thoughts that we have are related to things that happened in childhood or things that, we were exposed to, or beliefs that other people had, that our parents had, that, I mean, I
Mm.
talk a lot
And it's
with like
mhm.
clients about, their money story, right? And parents saying things like, money doesn't grow on trees, work is
Oh,
work.
it's the same worldwide. We
Yeah.
get it here too.
Work is supposed to be hard, like all of these things. And then you take that on to be truth because that's what you were exposed to. That's what that's all you knew. And then, that isn't really serving you now. And then you start to realize, wait a second, that's not really what I believe. That's what they believe. And I've thought that's what I believed my whole life, but that's really not what I want to believe. I want to change that. Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you for that, Lauren. Okay, we're gonna move to the next question. Okay, do the results last with
Yes.
EFT?
So, yes, they definitely can last. The a question I get a lot too is like, how long does it take to get the results, and how long do they last for? And so it really depends. It does really depend on the person, on the situation. So if this is an issue that you've had for a really long time, it can maybe take you a little while to get to the root of it and feel better. But you 100% can. And I always give this example of gardening, right? So if you have a garden and you need to go do weeding in the garden, and you say there's like a dandelion there, and you pull the flower of the dandelion off, it's going to grow back. And then maybe the next time you pull the flower and the leaves, and it takes a little bit longer, but it grows back. But if you go in there and you pull that thing out at the root, it's gonna be gone, right? Now, that's not to say that you're never gonna have to go weed your garden again, right? So it's the same kind of idea, because you can work on these things, you can get to the root of it, and you can move through it and let it go. However, we're human and we have all sorts of experiences in our lives, and some of those things can be triggering. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not always gonna be a magic pill, one and done kind of thing. You have to continue to do the work. So if you recognize like, oh, somebody said something to me and now I'm feeling that this way again.
Something.
Yeah, then
Mm-hmm.
you got to do some tapping on it, and you can't just like let it.
I think it's akin to, I mean, you taking a shower, right? You don't take showers like just one time and then you'll feel clean all the way. So it's cultivating the mind, cultivating your spirit, your soul on the goodness, because all of those things can come at us externally, and it's our job to really really tend to the garden that's inside us.
Yeah, I love that. No, that's exactly it. We need to like listen. We need to get still. We need to listen. What is my body trying to tell me? What is this, emotion that I'm feeling? What is this trying to tell me? And go from
Yeah.
the only thing I would say is that if you are someone who has knowingly experienced trauma,
Hmm.
I would suggest doing this practice with a certified practitioner, just because you want to make sure that you're doing it in a way that you feel really safe and held through the process, and you don't want to, you know, get yourself all worked up, and when you're alone, and trigger yourself.
And then you start spiral, your thoughts start spiraling, and you're like, oh my god, what is this, because
Yeah.
one thought can lead to another, worse thoughts, and we don't want that. And so, okay, that is a very helpful reminder to all of the listeners tuning in right now. And okay, so Lauren, the next question: is there a certain amount of time I should dedicate to tapping in a day?
I'll say this, the more often that you tap, the more likely you'll be to implement it when you really need it. So it is a practice that can be used both proactively, so on a daily basis as just part of your regular self-care, and then reactively when you're really feeling overwhelmed or anxious or stressed, and you're feeling triggered, right? So it can be used in both instances. So the more that you practice it, the more likely you'll be to actually implement it when you need it the most. That being said, I would say even just a couple of minutes a day would be great. When you do a one-on-one session, that's anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. So most people aren't going to have that much time in the day to be able to dedicate to this, and that's fine. But I would say even just a couple minutes. I always say, if most of us are taking showers, hopefully a couple times a week. And when you put the shampoo in your hair, you can do a couple rounds of tapping while you're in the shower, right? Or, you could do, I had one of my clients was like, oh, well, I like to tap when I'm at a red light. I'm like, okay, great. Like,
That's your cue.
yeah. So yeah, whatever you can squeeze in, whatever feels best for you.
Find out what works for you.
Mhm.
I guess I think the key takeaway for our listeners here, because somebody is comfortable tapping when they're just right before a meeting, or or just when they're alone, or I don't know, they're reading a book, or just I don't know. But then yeah, find out what works for you in the scrolling or whatever. I don't know how you're gonna, because you're scrolling, but then still find a way.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you're trying to create a new habit, it's good to attach it to something that you're already doing. So if it's like, oh, I brush my teeth and then I do a little bit of tapping, or I read my
That's a
book
good
before
one.
I go to bed and then I do a couple
Yeah,
minutes of tapping. But yeah,
slot it in there
mhm,
so that it feels natural to you.
exactly.
Awesome. Okay, Lauren, can you share an example of a client breakthrough?
Yeah. So tapping can be used for such a wide variety of conditions, anything from like anxiety and stress, like we've been talking about, to physical pain, to limiting beliefs, like I'm not good enough, to fears, right? And I like to tell this story of a woman who came to me who had a fear of riding on the elevator, and she never had any sort of experience where she was, locked in an elevator or stuck in an elevator or anything like that. She just never really liked it. And then as she got older, the fear just got worse. So much so that it kept her from going to Manhattan because, you can't go and stay in a hotel unless you're going to go in an elevator.
Yeah.
And was ready to create some change. So she came to me. We did a lot of tapping, and we worked together for 8 weeks. During that period of time, basically a bunch of different memories from childhood came to the surface, things that she had not thought about, times where she had felt really constricted, where she, was kind of had her back in a corner, so to speak. And ultimately, by holding space for these things that happened as a child that she had not thought about in years, but naturally came to the surface through the tapping process. She was then, at the end of our time working together, the next day she was actually taking a trip, and she emailed me at the end of that and said that she was able to get on every single elevator throughout the entire trip. So, she was able to overcome her fear by addressing where that started, all of these memories from childhood that kind of gelled together and then manifested itself as this fear of being in an enclosed space.
I often say to the clients that I speak to as well, it's usually something that you associate yourself with when you're a kid, and that is the issue that's presenting. So right now, for example, an example that I can think of right now is a friend came to me. Okay, Nick, I am having trouble sleeping. Why? I don't know why. At first, he thought that it was because of his partner that had passed away. And then I said, okay. Then I started asking some. This wasn't even a formal session. I just started asking question, and then turns out that he was actually worried that about his financial situation. So
Right.
it's the not being able to sleep, and now suddenly the root cause of it is actually you're worried because of your financial wherever he was at that point. And so once he understood that, so he started to detach or decouple those two things and really tackle those issues one by one, which is, why are you feeling this? Why are you worried about this? And yeah, so we dove into that. And often when people come, I think you might have some experiences of that as well. They come with one issue, but they walk out with an understanding of, okay, this is actually a different issue altogether.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of tapping, is that like it's never what you think it is.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, yes. And just be open when you're trying out this somatic healing practices.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just being open to what works for you, what's bringing things up for you. Yeah. And I think, like, how we both said, it's like, oh, we've tried lots of different modalities. I think that's the key, is just like following whatever you're interested in, go with that curiosity. There's a reason why there's that level of curiosity.
Okay, Lauren, what is in the pipeline for you? What is happening? What's exciting?
Yes, well, I'm working on a new group program right now that's specific for entrepreneurs who are dealing with stress, anxiety, imposter syndrome, all the things that can hold you back from being the entrepreneur that you know that you are. So that's very, very exciting. And I'm also leading my next EFT level 1 and 2 training in September. So that's also very exciting. Yeah, keeping busy over here.
Wow, awesome. Okay, where do you see yourself the next 3 years?
Well, I would love to be hosting some in-person retreats.
Oh
Um,
God, you read
yeah,
my mind.
yeah, and just continuing to share tapping on a larger scale. That's my goal.
Okay, Lauren, we're gonna pivot to a self-worth question. And so, the question that I think is best suited for you right now, because my podcast talks a lot about self-worth. So, in your own words, how would you define self-worth? And do you think it has evolved from then to now, where you're at?
Yeah. Self-worth, I mean, I think the first thing that came to mind was just self-love and, taking care of yourself and checking in with yourself and asking, what do I need? What do I need right now? And then giving yourself that gift of whatever it is, whether it's, I need a glass of water, I need to go for a walk, I need to call a friend, whatever, I think the self-worth is giving yourself the time and the love and attention that you deserve.
Okay, thank you for that answer, Lauren. What is your heart's greatest wish?
My heart's greatest wish. World peace.
I can tell you're not the only one who said that. And some people say, is it in general sense or more personal? I mean, up to you, whatever comes to mind.
um Yeah, I think it's just to be seen and to continue to share what I love and be surrounded by the people that I love the most. And yeah, just to continue to live in a place of gratitude.
Serving the world one person at a time.
Love it. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
The same goes to me too. So, I love, it's a very admirable work that you do. And I think that we coaches or people who's in the healing space, we get underappreciated. But I think the world is waking up to that, and we should all continue to shine the light in the darkness. I mean, because the world is it's very chaotic, and all the more reason they need us, right? Okay, Lauren, if you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening in the world as your legacy, what would it be?
Oh, jeez.
Sorry to put you on the spot here.
Oh my. You'd think I'd have one because whenever I do my weekly newsletter, I include a quote in there, but my mind is just blank. Maybe just do you, do you. Don't let judgment hold you back, or fear of judgment. Just go do what you want to do.
Thank you. So, how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can find me on my website, which is mindshiftwithlauren.com. And I also have a YouTube channel, Mind Shift with Lauren. If you search for that on Instagram, I'll pop up, although my handle's Lauren Nicole. But if you search for Mind Shift with Lauren on any of the socials, you'll find me.
Awesome. Okay, so any last parting message to our listeners before we close this episode?
Yeah, just I would say that, if you are feeling the nudge to like explore tapping, go do it. Give yourself the gift. Go give it a try. Go look up videos on YouTube. And if it's not tapping and it's, hypnotherapy or sound healing or
Reiki,
yoga,
who
Reiki,
knows? Yeah.
whatever it is, go try it. Go try it. There's a reason why, you're feeling the nudge to do it. Yeah, go do that for yourself.
It's probably a good reason. There's a good reason behind why you are tuning to this podcast. That is a wrap on today's inspiring episode with Lauren. Fonvielle. Thank you for your wisdom, Lauren, and your dedication to continue to do your work and to uplift the world around you. Now, for our listeners, this has been your wordless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, if you've ever felt wordless, remember you are not alone. And for that reason, your soul chose to be here to matter. And for that reason alone, you are worthy. A huge thank you to you again, Laura, and to all of you for listening. Until next time, I am Nick Nieras. Keep shining, keep growing, and always remember you are worthy and you are enough. See you in the next episode. Thank you, Lauren, for your time.
Yeah.
Love this episode? Now, transformation doesn't end here. Head on to at holistic.lifestyle_with Nick. That is on my Instagram. Or head on to my website, www.deniqueras.holisticlifestyle.com for more info on my coaching framework, which is the Worthy, Authentic, and Abundant Framework, digital guides, and my upcoming events such as retreats and master classes and workshops. Now, I also do intuitive readings where we get to check on your soul path. And if you're also wanting to check on your energetic alignment, I have done that too. And I offer that kind of services. So, my question to you is, are you ready? Because I am. Let's create the next. Good morning to you, Lauren. How are you doing today?
Morning. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Me too. I'd like to say thank you to you for reaching out and for actually saying yes to be interviewed today. I'd like to introduce myself to you formally and to all of our listeners tuning in today. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, today we're going to talk about a modality which I have very little knowledge of, which is the EFT. I'd like to introduce you to all of our listeners first before, and then we can get right into our conversation. Hello, everyone. We have Lauren Fonvielle here with us. Lauren is an integrative energy practitioner specializing in EFT or tapping for stress, anxiety, and trauma. Now she guides her clients on a journey of self-healing, breaking through obstacles, physical, mental, or emotional, that are keeping them feeling stuck and in pain. Wow. Short but impactful. Welcome to the show.